Good morning, students. Let's start second poetry of Flamingo, an elementary school classroom in a slum, written by Stefan Spencer. It is an important poem. Elementary means primary, slums, deprived of areas. Let's start with the theme and author. The theme is in an elementary school classroom in a slum, Stefan Spencer, the poet, beautifully brings out the theme of social injustice and class inequalities. Poverty is also another theme of the poem. The poet creates an image of children in poverty. It is poverty that has caused the children to be weighed down, diseased, and twisted. The poet, the poet believes that poverty is created through the oppressive power of capitalism. Stephen Spencer, who was born in 1909 and died in 1995, was a poet and English essayist. Spencer had keen interest in politics and so he declared himself as socialist and pacifist. His work concentrated on themes of social injustice and the class struggle. Introduction of the poem. The poem written by Stephen Spencer describes the social inequalities which are prevailing in the society. In the poem, he describes the condition of the students of an elementary school, that in which situation, in which conditions the children in primary schools live, which is situated in a slum area. The poet wants to draw attention of everyone towards these kids so that their life can be improved and they may get trained to become good citizens rather than criminals. Poem and explanation. Let's start with the first stanza. The first stanza starts with the lines far, far from gusty waves, these children's faces, like rootless weeds, the hair torn round their pallor, the tall girl with her weighed down head, the paper seeming boy with red eyes, the stunted, unlucky heir of twisted bones reciting a father's dweller disease, his lesson from his desk at back of the dim class, one unnoted, sweet and young. His eyes live in a dream of a squirrel's game in 3 room other than this. Let's start the explanation. The first line starts with far from gusty waves. Gusty means the waves of happiness. The faces of these children are very much far from the waves of the happiness. The poet describes the children who study in an elementary school which is set up in a slum area. The poet says that the faces of children are dull and without any energy. They are not full of energy like other kids of their age. These children are compared to unwanted weed, like rootless weeds, which means they are unwanted weed. Here the poet wants to say that these children seem to be unwanted by the society, like the unwanted weeds which grow on their own in the fields. Nobody grows them. The children are just like them. Their hair is not neatly done. The hair torn round their pallor means their hair are never combed properly. It falls on their pale faces as if they have been torn apart. Pale faces means yellow faces, which denotes that they never get nutritious food. That's why the color of their faces are always yellow. So their hair, because they are always untidy and never combed, it falls on their pale faces as if they have been torn apart. The children are always untidy. They haven't combed their hair. Then he describes the girl in the class, a tall girl, who seems to be burdened by poverty, who is having her weighed down head. Means she was so burdened with poverty and with lots of responsibilities that she could not even raise her head. Her head is bent maybe because of tiredness or shame. There is another boy in the class who is so weak and thin that he has been compared to a sheet of paper. Now you can imagine that how thin he would be, that the poet is saying that he looks like a paper. The boy's eyes reflect greed. He is being compared, his eyes are being compared with the eyes of rats, which means that he is having a desire to fulfill his appetite. What do the rats do in our home? They are always in search of food. That's why his eyes are being compared with the eyes of rat. The boy's eyes reflect greed and he wants to achieve everything. He wants to eat, he wants to catch everything, whatever is there outside the classroom. Then he describes another student who is physically disabled. The stunted unlucky here. Stunted means undeveloped. Another student who is physically disabled. The poet says that this boy is unlucky because he inherited a disease. What do we inherit from our forefathers? The property, the money, the home, the land. But instead, what he is inheriting? Disease from his father, due to which he has a deformed body. Instead of getting any facility from his father, he has received a disease and heritage. This disabled boy is sitting on his bench and is reciting his lesson. But what does he recite actually? The poet considered that he is reciting the disease which he inherited from his father. Another boy in the class. At the back of the class in dim dark area was a small boy who was not visible to the poet, as he was sitting in darkness. Then the poet noticed him, and the poet could see his eyes, which were bright and full of a dream. He noticed that there was a dream in his eyes. He was not paying attention to the class. His body was present only. His mind was somewhere else, as if it seemed to him as if he was rather interested in playing with the squirrels in the tree house. He was watching the squirrels playing outside the classroom and he had a desire to enjoy the freedom like a squirrel outside the classroom. The figure of speeches used in these lines were simply children are compared with rootless wheat like rootless wheat. Metaphor, boys is compared with paper as he is thin. Repetition, use of far to stress on the distance. Next stanza. On sour cream walls, donations, Shakespeare's head, cloudless at dawn, civilized dome riding all cities, belt, flowery, trolleys, valley, open-handed map, awarding the world its world. And yet, for those children, these windows, note this map, their world, were all their futures painted with a fog. A narrow street sealed in with a lead sky, far, far from rivers, capes, and stars of worlds. The poet is describing here the condition of the classroom. In the first stanza, he describes the students who were sitting in the classroom in a slum area. Now he is describing the inside of the classroom, the interior of the classroom actually. He is saying, the poet describes the walls of the school. Firstly, he says, they are cream in color, like the color of sour cream. The color also resembles the dark future, dark conditions of their life. There is no brightness in their life also. This means that the walls are not cleaned. They have not been painted recently. They have been painted only after getting some donations from some rich people. Only on being donated, some pictures are being painted there. The walls are decorated, or you can say covered, with different sort of charts and images. They must have been donated by different people of the society. So there was picture of Shakespeare on the wall. His head, which is bald, looks like the rising sun at the horizon. At the time of daybreak, the sun is rising at the horizon and is semicircular like a dome shape. It seems to be behind all the cities. There were so many pictures in the classroom. Among them, there was a picture of Shakespeare. The picture was quite useless, and the head of the Shakespeare was just like cloudless at dawn. There were so many pictures like civilized domes riding all the cities. Civilized domes means building. And there were pictures, there were maps where the children were being shown the outside world, the rich, beautiful world, which was having cloudless scene, civilized buildings which could be found in each and every city. There is a picture of the famous Troilus Valley, which has beautiful flowers. There is the image of a map which helps all in its own way. But for these children, open handed map means through the map the children were being shown the outside beauty of the world. The world at its best condition was being shown. There is the image of a map which helps all in its own way. Means it was to help them to know the world, but it was not fulfilling its purpose. But for these children, the map of the world is irrelevant because the slum where they live is different from what is shown in the map. The world is only what they see out of the window of the classroom. The slum. Their world is only they were confined into a limited area which was their world. Their future is full of darkness. Their future is compared to a narrow street, which means that there is no wider scope available for their future growth. These children are far from the radiant light of knowledge and education. The radiant light and the knowledge and education are very much far from their reach. It was not their cup of tea to get all these facilities which the rich students are getting daily. Figure of speech is used in these lines. Metaphor. Walls are described to be dull as sour cream. The future of the kids is described as limited. Assonance. Repetition of vowel sound E, belt, flowery, trellis, valley. Allusion. Reference to well-known person or place, Shakespeare's head. Repetition. Far, repeated. Let's start third stanza. Third stanza again starts with the reference of Shakespeare. Surely Shakespeare is wicked. The map a bad example, with ships and sun and love tempting them to steal, for lives that slyly turn in their crammed holes, from fog to endless night. On the slag heap, these children wear skins, peeped through by bones and the spectacles of steel, with mended glass, like bottle wits on stones. All of their time and the space are foggy slum. So blot their maps with slum as big as tomb. What does he say? He says that the picture of the Shakespeare is the worst example for these children. The map was also a bad example for them. Why? What is the utility of having picture of Shakespeare in the classroom? Shakespeare is wicked, the map a bad example, with ships and the sun, because from the map they were able to see the outside world, which was full of luxuries, which was full of love. The sun and the ships were tempting them to steal. Why all these were tempting them to steal? Because it was out of their reach. They could not afford them. So all these things were tempting them to come out and steal away all these things. For lives that slyly turn in their cramped holes means for them the lives was being hidden somewhere. It has secretly hidden itself in their cramped holes, in their holes. They were being compared with the rats, so their homes were being compared with the holes. From folk to endless night, which is their world? Their world is slum only, from where they spent all their life, which is started from the folk to endless and ends at endless night. On their slag heap, their body is being compared with a heap of rubbish. Their body was just like heap, and these children wear skins peeped means the poet further says that these children living in the slum area have faced so many hardships that they feel every other person to be their enemy. For them, Shakespeare is an evil man. They don't find the map to be a good thing. They were never liked or loved by anyone. Therefore, they hate almost everyone. Their desire of being loved by others forces them to steal because they cannot afford it. They live in small homes and they have started adjusting to it. That's why the poet has earlier compared their homes with holes, with rats, because rats lives in hole. Their life is going towards an endless night. This means that their future is full of darkness. These kids are so thin, their bodies compared with the heap of dust and garbage. So these kids are so thin that one can easily see their bones through the thin layer of skin. Their skin is like the thin layer of cloth, and the bones beneath are visible through the skin. These kids suffer from malnutrition. They wear spectacles which are made of steel. They are cheap and very uncomfortable. Even the lenses in the spectacles are repaired. Whatever they used to wear, they get from the garbage only. So their body looks like the heap of garbage because whatever they were wearing on their body were just being taken, picked up from the garbage. Their spectacles look like stones which have been repaired with pieces of glass sticking out of them. Wear skins peep through by bones and spectacles of steel with mended glasses. Wear skin. These children used to wear skins. Their skins appear to be the cloth because their bones used to reflect from them. And whenever they used to wear specks of steel with mended glasses were being repaired. They appeared just like the bottle bits on stones. Here the poet tries to explain that these kids have to face so many hardships in their lives. As these slums are getting bigger, they will destroy the future of these children, and it is very difficult for such kids to escape from them. The figure of speech metaphor, their homes are very small, like holes, cramped holes, trodden holes. Simile, their repeated spectacles like bottle bits on stones. Alliteration, use of F sound far from folk. Let's come to the last stanza. Unless governor, inspector, visitor, this map becomes their window, and these windows that shut upon their lives like catacombs break, open till they break the town, and show the children to green fields, and make their world run osier on gold sands, and let their tongue run naked into books. The white and green leaves open history. Their history leaves open history theirs whose language is the sun. The poet says that the government should take notice of the problems being faced by these kids. Actually, in the last stanza, he requests the high profile people to come out, to take initiatives to make these children free from all hardships. The poet says that the government should take notice of their problems. He urges them to change the life of these kids and make the world map a reality for them. There is a need to break the restrictions which are put on them due to poverty and lack of resources. He wants the governor and public to help these kids in achieving their dreams, as this will take them away from fog towards a sky which is of blue color, but they are never able to see that blue color sky. The poet here wants to say that in this way the kids can be taken away from the darkness of their present to a bright future. What does he say? He just wants that these children should be taken out from the darkness of their present state to a bright future. He wants these kids to experience the sands and the beauty of nature, as this will lead to a desire of gaining knowledge. They will then go through the white and green leaves, means the poet wants these children to study good quality books. Here, white leaves depict books and green leaves depict nature. They should live in the company of nature. This will then result in their progress, and they will be able to paint a bright future for themselves, because future can be painted bright with the knowledge, with the education, with the warmth, with the enthusiasm, and that enthusiasm, that zeal can be generated in children only with the help of education. So education plays an important role. That's why the poet requests all the high profile people to remove, to break all the restrictions, all the boundaries, and let these children have good education. Let them have read the good books. Let them have gained the warmth of the sun, because history can be created only by the people who are having the language of sun. Figure of speeches used in these lines. Metaphor: books and nature are expressed in form of white and green leaves. The white green leaves open. Anaphora: use of repeated words in two consecutive lines. Now you have to do all the NCERT questions and the stanza based questions. Thank you. Have a nice day.